Okay, welcome to this event at the UK Pavilion on regional connectivity, accelerating clean energy corridors from the North Sea to Central Asia. My name is Marcus Stewart, and I am Head of Secretariat for the Green Grids Initiative. So I'm really delighted to chair this event, this knowledge sharing event today. I'll just give you a couple of words about the Green Grids Initiative and what we do and why this kind of thing is so important to us. So the Green Grids Initiative was launched at COP29 as an initiative of the UK government, and we are currently fully funded by the UK government through the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero and the National Energy System Operator. And our role in life is to help accelerate the deployment of grids to enable the energy transition, because we cannot deliver the amount of renewable energy required to meet the climate change targets without the grid infrastructure. As we like to say, there's no transition without transmission, and that is so true. So I'm delighted to have some ministers and a panel here to talk about how to deliver that essential infrastructure and join up nations, because that's one of the other key aspects of delivering the energy transition. It is not just a domestic challenge, it is a national and an international and a regional challenge, because the more we can connect with our neighbours, the more we can get out of the energy that we are providing through sharing the benefits, balancing across a wider area and balancing across time zones as well. So connecting regionally is going to be a critical way to deliver the energy transition and driven it in an economic way. There was a report that was launched a little while ago by an organisation called Transition Zero that identified the benefits of a connected net zero strategy to a non-connected net zero strategy was a net benefit of around $3 trillion globally by 2040 to meet those same trajectories. So the importance of connectivity between nations and regions is going to be one of the key ways that we deliver the energy transition. Our role as the Green Grids Initiative is really to help facilitate that conversation. We bring organisations together to work on those challenges. We work on three main challenge areas. One is around finance for grids. Earlier today we launched a paper on climate finance and consultation on climate finance to try and accelerate and create greater access to that concessional finance for grid projects, because that is a blocker at the moment. We also focus on planning and operation and how we can get best practice and good practice sharing between nations and operators, so we can learn from the best to accelerate and work off each other and share that knowledge. And then the third area that we're passionate about is working with the supply chain to gear up to meet that challenge, because we know that in order to deliver on climate change, we need to double the grid infrastructure spend by 2030 to $600 billion per annum, and double the size of the grid globally by 2040, and you can't do that without having the supply chain involved as well. So that's a bit about me and the Green Grids Initiative. I'm happy to meet people after the event and discuss more of what we're doing. But now I really want to get to the experts and the key speakers. So first up, I'd like to welcome Minister Kerry McCarthy, who's the Climate Minister for the UK Government for the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. So Minister, please take it.
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear okay? Yeah, good. First of all, can I say what a pleasure it is to be here today attending, not my first COP overall, but my first COP as a UK Minister. I am very grateful for everyone for joining this event, and also to our Bulgarian colleagues for all the work that they've done to advance this agenda. Climate change will have consequences for every generation to come, but we are living in the generation when we can take action to limit its worst impacts. And I'm encouraged to see so many of you here today that are pioneering the type of change that we need to see. It will reap huge economic benefits and improve or even save people's lives. I'm proud that the UK is at the forefront of the push towards renewable, with our new government's mission to deliver clean power by 2030. In the UK, we were very much in the vanguard of the Industrial Revolution, and many of our communities have a proud history of generating energy from coal mining. At the start of the Industrial Revolution, coal was the power behind factories and trains which brought British goods to the world. But much has changed since then, and we intend to be pioneers a second time round. I'm very pleased to say that after 142 years of coal power in the UK, this year we turned off our last coal power plant. It was a truly symbolic moment on our journey to net zero, and it's important to say this was part of a just transition where we were replacing those jobs on site with new green and jobs which will benefit the local community for years to come. In recent years, the North Seas have powered our economy from the oil and gas buried under it to the offshore wind farms that we use today. And the development of the North Seas would not have been possible without cooperation with our neighbours and industry partners, from the gas pipelines that bring Norwegian gas to the UK and beyond, to the electricity interconnectors which help deliver clean power from UK into wind to Ireland. Our experience has shown that cooperation is key. The North Seas Energy Cooperation, NSEC, is a prime example of how regional collaboration can drive progress, bringing together countries bordering the North Seas to work on a range of topics from technical to political levels, driving our shared ambition to make the North Seas the world's green power plant. The North Seas can be the engine room of the future, offering energy security, clean power and secure jobs to thousands of people. And the UK is an important part of this, with 120 gigawatts of NSEC's 2050 300 gigawatts target due to be in UK waters. But these opportunities for growth are not exclusive to the North Seas, which is why I'm here today to discuss with our Bulgarian colleagues and you the huge opportunities that also exist in the Black Sea and beyond. We want to share our lessons from regional cooperation and connectivity because these are essential in tackling our shared challenges, such as how we integrate renewable energy, regulation, infrastructure and supply chains. So it's in the spirit of friendship and cooperation that the UK strongly endorses the Bulgarian non-paper on energy connectivity dialogues, and I commend Bulgaria's initiative. Look forward to hearing from the Minister in a moment. While the North Sea can provide a valuable example, each region will identify their own pathways, and there is much that we can all learn from our respective neighbourhoods. So I look forward to a productive discussion and advancing these dialogues as we work together towards our shared goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. It's now my pleasure to welcome Deputy Minister for Energy for Bulgaria, Eva Petrova, to come and say a few words as well. So, Deputy Minister, please welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Dear Minister McCarthy, dear colleagues, it is a great pleasure for me to be here today and to share with you the latest endeavors of Bulgaria related to strengthening regional cooperation. Yesterday at the Bulgarian Pavilion here at COP29, we conducted a high-level political event devoted to the official announcement of the non-paper on energy connectivity dialogues. The President of the Republic of Bulgaria, Rumen Radev, the Prime Minister of Greece, together with 6 ministers from Belgium, Greece, Romania, Hungary, Moldova, Bulgaria and Azerbaijan, gathered to express their support around the core concept behind the document, which is actually strong regional cooperation and connectivity for enhanced energy transition. And here it is the time to thank United Kingdom for being among the first countries to support us on the non-paper and the initiative, together with Czech Republic, of course, Greece, Romania, Hungary, Italy, Belgium, and Moldova. And also, I would like to use the opportunity to thank Ms. Rachel Kite, UK Special Representative for Climate, that personally attended and supported the event of yesterday. What is the non-paper about? Actually, the non-paper calls for deepening the inter-regional cooperation to deliver more resilient, secure, and clean energy systems across the European political community and beyond, in order to fulfill our goals of the Paris Agreement and for strengthening the electricity transmission connectivity from south to north, in order to deliver renewable energies for the system and supporting the regional transition strategies. The ambitious decarbonization targets that our country is committed to actually result in rapidly transforming Europe, transforming greener future for the generations to come, and changing the electricity generation fleet all over Europe and beyond. In order to achieve these goals, however, we need a common and integrated approach to plan and build together stronger and more adequate infrastructure, new transmission lines, but also storage infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and then providing for the necessary flexible resources in order to integrate the renewable energy and maintain system security and security of supplies. The well-established CESEC region, as well as the North Seas partnerships, are a good foundation for this. And we think that these cutting-edge examples of regional cooperation provide valuable assets in the form of experiences, resources, skills, lessons learned that could have that are transferable and have a practical value for the other regions. Our vision includes conducting a follow-up technical discussions, the first one to come in December this year in Sofia. Then we think around February next year also to have a scoping exercise for deciding on the particular workflow and the way forward under the initiative. We would be happy to continue the dialogue and the joint efforts, and that so far proved the efficient way forward for the non-paper. The scope of the dialogues we provide to be followed up at political level within the European political community, where we have a good setup to continue our exchanges. And it was really great yesterday to hear the shared perspectives for the proposed interregional cooperation that will contribute to the competitiveness of our economies and the well-being of our citizens. And we are really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Now we're going to have some interventions from experts who are working in the field and working on some of these projects and some of these regions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call people up individually to come and speak, and then sit on the panel, and we'll have some questions at first as well. So first up, I'd like to welcome Giles Dixon from Wind Europe to come and address. Giles, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to be talking to you and to see the room so full. It is fantastic that you are doing this, and well done to the UK and Bulgarian governments for the leadership that you are giving on all of this work. Interconnectors between countries are absolutely key to our energy security and to integrating increasing shares of variable renewables in our energy system. And in fact, you know, the sentiment in industry and among governments seems to be moving more and more towards interconnectors as the key solution to the integration of renewables. Of course, we need storage. We need demand response. We need flexibility in the functioning of electricity markets. But those things aren't moving quite as fast as people had previously hoped. And a lot of people are now saying, actually, it's the interconnectors that are the single most important way of integrating variable renewables. And that's partly because people have realized that the generation profiles of wind and solar in different countries around Europe actually match each other extremely well. And if you can manage to connect them together through a properly integrated European grid, then you have very stable source of power. We've always said in wind, the wind is always blowing somewhere in Europe. Always. Wind, on average, is 20% of all of the electricity we consume in Europe today. Solar is then another 10%. So variable renewables are already 30% of our electricity. Some days, wind is 40% or 50% of the electricity. Some days it's down to 5%, but it never goes below 5%. There is always wind blowing somewhere in Europe. And the challenge, of course, is to get it from wherever it's blowing to where the demand is. Now, Bulgaria and the UK, you're at opposite ends of the continent, but you have very similar challenges. In Bulgaria, it's key to you, and the event you had yesterday, Minister, I was there, it was an excellent event with your head of state and the Greek head of state, reflects the understanding among all the countries in the Western and Eastern Balkans that you have to do this together, and by doing it together you can improve your energy security and reduce your electricity bills. And the Romanian minister was very eloquent on this yesterday, contrasting the 250 euros a megawatt hour that is the wholesale price in Romania today with the less than 100 megawatts that it is in much of Western Europe. In the UK, of course, the challenge is the North Sea. Absolutely clear. And it's very encouraging that all the other national governments in the North Sea's Energy Cooperation want the UK back in as a full member of NSEC. We just need to work on the European Commission to ensure that that happens. And anything as a member state, Bulgaria, you can do in that respect would be extremely helpful. We're certainly pressing the Commission from our side as the industry. We've just commissioned a report from the consultants Baringa, together with Breakthrough Energy, which is Bill Gates' thing, the Gates Foundation runs it. A report assessing the economic benefits to the whole of Northwest Europe of fully integrating the UK in the North Sea's Energy Cooperation. And I know, Minister, that your own department have commissioned your own report on this, which I think is looking at the benefits to the UK economy primarily. For the European economy as a whole, specifically Northwest Europe, by 2040, if the UK is joined up in a proper North Sea grid, and the offshore wind farms between different countries are connected, the total saving to consumers by 2040 is 44 billion euros. And the consumer electricity bills on average in every country around the North Sea will go down by 20%. That is the tangible benefit to our citizens of closer electricity cooperation. One final observation, if I may. You're absolutely right to highlight the supply chain challenge here. We do not have enough factories in Europe making grid equipment. Cables, transformers, switchgear, converter platforms. We are building more. And in the UK, you're expanding the GE factory in Stafford, which is crucial to HVDC technology, which we need for these big grids. You're also building 3 new cable factories in Sunderland, thanks to JDR, and then thanks to Sumitomo and XLCC in Scotland as well. And this is crucial, and governments must proactively support the expansion of the supply chain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giles. Do you want to sit on the stage? Sit there. Thank you. Thank you, Giles, for those really pertinent and compelling points. I'm sold on the idea. I'd now like to welcome Julie Taylor, who's Director of Commercial, Regulatory and Supply Chain for National Grid. National Grid, by the way, are one of our official sponsors of the UK Pavilion, so I'd like to recognise National Grid's support here. Julie, if you'd like to say a few words, thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. Thank you. So, as Marcus says, I'm part of an organisation who is in the implementation phase here, so I'm just going to respond a little. But for those of you who don't know National Grid, we are a global company. We work in the US and the UK. We're investing 60 billion over the next 5 years in upgrading grids in both those locations. 30 billion of that will be in the UK. And we are in the middle of upgrading the national transmission system in England and Wales, and alongside our Scottish partners, putting in transmission from Scotland down to England through the North Sea as part of our regulated business. We are also the proud owners under our commercial arm of 6 existing interconnectors into Europe. Those interconnectors in total are giving 8 gigawatts of power, both ways. And to give you some numbers, as Giles has, that is enough to power 6.5 million homes. It's avoiding 100 million tonnes of carbon, and it's 90% clean energy flowing through those interconnectors. So it's a very, very important part of our energy system in the UK, and it's also an important part, potentially, of a wider European and beyond energy system. This has recently been confirmed by the UK's electricity system operator in their report that they've produced on government's request as to how we can speed up this transition, and they have reinforced the central place of interconnectors, as Giles says, in allowing us to cope with the intermittency of renewables, in providing energy security with partners that we feel secure with, and of course adding a huge amount of value to the consumer. So where are we with this programme? We have just received support from our regulator for 2 new offshore hybrid assets. So these are Lionlink and Nautilus. We are expecting these to be considered now by the regulatory sides, both in Europe and in the UK. And it's looking very promising for increasing our capacity by another 3.2 gigawatts into Europe. So we are very, very positive about the future here, and very, very proud to be part of this interconnected system, both for our UK consumers and for the wider benefits that it can offer the whole region. We have a couple of asks. I was delighted to hear from the ministers the level of political commitment and also the very clear understanding about how this is only going to work if we cooperate really closely. And I suppose our asks for this session are how we can think about cooperation strategically. In particular, I think it is important that we get some sort of strategy for how the North Sea as a whole is going to work. And obviously we have various fora, including the North Sea Summit. I think the UK, we are doing our best to be a full part of those arrangements, and we will continue to do so. Having a really clear vision for the future of that particular region is important for us as we make delivery decisions about what we build. And also, as Giles mentioned, there are a couple of tactical concerns about how we get this market operating properly. So our membership of NSEC and the ability to run a properly cleared market seems important. And also, we want the carbon border rules to work effectively and not to introduce dangerous and potentially distorting arrangements into the system. Because at the end of the day, we all have the same goal here, which is clean power, energy security, and the best deal for our consumers across the whole region. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And I love that stat that 90% of the energy flowing through the interconnectors is clean energy as well. So that's, it shows you the value and the importance of connecting. I'd now like to welcome Kirill Ravinci, who is CEO of Bulgaria Transgas from Bulgaria. Please, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. So happy to be part of the UK Pavilion. I'll start my presentation with the thought that I was having and I shared yesterday at our pavilion. When we compare the energy transitions back in the times, the one from wood to coal and the one from coal to oil, it usually took 100 years for each of these to happen. We're in a much different situation right now. We have 25 years to tackle with all the challenges that we have. In order for us to achieve the net zero goals that we have, we need to cooperate. We need to work together to make this happen. And I think from the perspective of a gas TSO, gas has a major role in being a bridge fuel on one hand, but also paving the way for zero carbon gases in the future. We at Bulgar Transgas have invested a lot in modernizing the system and bringing the emissions low. But at the same time, we should also appreciate the fact that having all these different sources in the energy mix, we need to have a balance. And I think gas at this stage is the energy source that brings this balance. But when we invest into the system, we should also pave the way for low energy gases. And in that sense, we're dedicated in improving our system and building the hydrogen system together with our neighboring countries, Romania and Bulgaria. This gives the opportunity for affordable and at the same time reachable access to energy for all the participants. In that sense, I think we can learn a lot from the North Sea region from the perspective of this cooperation between not only the different countries in the region, but also cooperation between the stakeholders within the specific countries. With that being said, I think we're dedicated in continuing the development of the infrastructure in a cooperative manner together with all neighboring countries. And thank you very much for your attention. I'll be happy to answer additional questions.
Thank you, Kirill. Now I'd like to welcome Bogi Harshland from the Carbon Trust to come up and, I've pronounced your name wrong, haven't I? I tell you why you smiled at me. Sorry, apologies. It had to happen. To come from the Carbon Trust to talk to us about some of the work that you've been doing in Central Asia. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, hello. I've had many versions of my name. It's Boje Højgaard, and thank you very much for inviting me here today. So I'm the Associate Director for Energy Transition at the Carbon Trust. And the Carbon Trust was founded by the UK government and as a carbon advisor to UK businesses, but we became an independent social enterprise, not for dividend, in 2010. And we are now working across the world with offices across the world for about 400 people. We provide advice to governments and to development banks and companies. So I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to talk about a work that we've recently done for the Ocean Energy Pathway. It was on how much offshore wind can be housed or could be built in Azerbaijan profitably. And that looked at both the energy demand today and then a higher electrification energy demand scenario in 2040 and then one in 2050. And we started the analysis by saying how much wind can you build, wind and solar can you build without going over the level of energy demand. This is a test to see how can you minimize the integration challenges. This is before you consider building more interconnectors and more flexibility into the system. And our minimum sort of no regrets scenario came out as 3.4 gigawatts of offshore wind. This is of a theoretical potential of 35 gigawatts. We then looked at a high ambition scenario which could be pushing using the existing oil and gas skills as the industry will transition away from oil and gas. It's a similar skill set for offshore wind. And the high ambition level is 7.2 gigawatts of offshore wind, going to 11 gigawatts by 2050. So 7.2 in 2040. And this unlocking of the early entrant sort of capability in the Caspian Sea would require Azeri government support, proactive support. It would require a lot of manufacturing investment and a focus on skills development now. But it would provide the opportunity for very significant decarbonization and also to enhance Azeri grid infrastructure. So as was mentioned with the interconnectors, one way of improving the grid infrastructure in Azerbaijan would be to build the offshore wind farms south of Baku to start with, and then an internal interconnector between the Baku and the south of Azerbaijan. And that would give better access to, for the southern part of the country to this renewable energy. And we calculated that on average it would bring around 19,000 jobs to Azerbaijan. So that's it from me, so thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Boje. Right, I'm now a leap of faith now because I'm going to invite Anna Lebanova from UNESCAP to join us remotely. So, Anna, over to you, please.
Thank you, Marcus. I hope you can hear me well, and at least I can see myself on the screen, so that's a good sign.
We can hear you.
As Minister McCartney already emphasized the importance of energy transition, I would like to say that while there are many tools available to accelerate energy transition, when we look outside Europe, unfortunately, energy connectivity by linking national power grids remain underutilized. As ASCAP, we combine 53 member states all the way from Turkey to the Pacific Island countries. And it's important to mention that all our member states emphasize the importance of power system connectivity by endorsing regional roadmap. So it means that the political will is there. So there is something else what is missing, and ASCAP supports member states on working on development power system connectivity. And today I would like to dive in a little bit in our project in Central Asia, what we do in that region. Because Central Asia, it has its history when it comes to power system connectivity. However, it's important to take into account current challenges and modern developments in this sphere. And of course, we're all inspired by European example, and Jill and Julie today already mentioned the importance and the benefits which energy connectivity brings us. And as it was said, sun is always shining somewhere and wind is always blowing somewhere. So let's use these features to connect grids. So by interconnecting power system, of course, we can improve energy security and the lower cost and improve energy efficiency. And in Central Asia, countries like Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan have abundant hydropower resources, while Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan are rich in fossil fuels and increasingly exploring renewable energy options. So ASCAP is working together with partners such as Economic Cooperation Organization to develop a roadmap to create a regional power electricity market for the region of Central Asia and neighbor countries. Because unfortunately, while there is a great potential, by current date, most of the cross-border trade is conducted on bilateral agreement basis rather than on multilateral framework, which is necessary to unleash all the benefits. And we have prepared the roadmap, which will be launched in a couple of weeks in Tajikistan. And this report emphasized the need to build on existing infrastructure and build on existing institutional solutions to harmonize regulations and create regional investment platforms and create harmonized regulation to facilitate energy trade. Power system connectivity, it's not a silver bullet, of course, but when implemented effectively, it can be a powerful tool to ensure secure and accelerated energy transition. And here, ASCAP stands ready to work with our member states to turn this vision into reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you all the panelists. So we're now going to move to the next phase of the event. First off, I'd just like to sort of bring a few points together from what has been said and things that sort of resonated with me as the panelists and the ministers were speaking. I mean, it's a no-brainer that we need this grid interconnection. It brings energy security, it brings economic efficiency, and it brings climate benefits. So, it's not a case of why, it's a case of how. And I think what we're saying today, that, there is great benefit in sharing experiences across regions. We've seen, some of the stats around the economic benefits in terms of jobs, the opportunities that, things at the cutting edge, such as the multi-purpose interconnectors, are going to bring as well. And we need to share that experience and share that knowledge between regions and bring that together. So, it's very exciting, I think, to have this kind of forum and, to take that kind of conversation further. And, a point just at the end that Anna mentioned as well, we need that evolution from bilateral trading to multilateral trading to unleash the benefits. I really like the sound of that. I mean, these benefits need unleashing because they are there to be had. So, it's very exciting to have this discussion. And just from a personal point of view, I dabbled in interconnector projects about 20 years ago, and since I left that work, quite a few have been built. I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but it is great to see the progress in the North Sea. So I would like to now open for a few questions. So the first question I have is, what do we see as I can't hear myself. You hear me? What do we see as a key lesson that could apply to other regions from the North Sea to date to unlock critical investment? And what do you consider to be the most important areas to work with in industry? And I'm going to direct that question to a new panellist who's not even here. Again, we're working with technology here, so I'd like to invite Stuart Plain from the North Sea Transition Authority, who is online, who should be able to join in and do the initial response to that. Stuart, over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay, Marcus?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everybody from the UK, where it's still just morning. I hope you're having a good session. And great to listen in so far. I think I'd say two things. First one is collaboration, which is a phrase that's already come up in the conversation, but real collaboration within countries, recognizing that different energy systems are going to need to interact with each other, sharing discrete spatial areas, particularly in oceans, working out how you're going to help things co-locate. So we have wind, we have wave, we have tidal, we have oil and gas, we have CCS, we have potentially hydrogen, all needs to take place in the same area. So really promoting collaboration domestically and then being outward looking. And it's been great to hear reference to NSEC and other things, but collaborating internationally and learning from colleagues and partners. The UK has often worked with people like the Netherlands, like Norway, like Denmark, with whom we share lots of common interests. The second piece, which again I think has been referenced earlier today, is recognizing that in the transition, we have a wealth of things we want to try and take from some of the existing offshore industries. And we always talk about three things. We talk about trying to move the kit, so the physical infrastructure for reuse and repurposing, the capability, the supply chain, the skills that we've got, and the capital. So how do we skillfully move the kit, the capital, and the capability seamlessly from one sector into the new, so that can enable a genuinely fair transition, but also make sure that we don't lose those great skills, knowledge, and infrastructure that we've already built up.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask the panel, is there anybody else who would like to respond to that question? Yep. Oh, sorry, there's a...
Hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I would add to that, I think a stable investment environment for renewables. So I think one example that the UK has done really, really well has been on contracts for difference. So the setup has really reduced a lot the capital cost to invest in Britain. But that comes with, when you build more interconnectors, that comes with the essential ingredient that you need to couple your markets with others. So it's the collaboration across borders is so important, and that's not worked so well since Brexit, I think. And the last bit, to make a little bit of a plug for ourselves, we run the offshore wind accelerator, and that was a government created setup. And now it's fully funded by the industry, and that is sharing research and development investment so that you don't have to spend the same money twice. And that's really important, just general collaboration between the investors, and that covers all of the North Sea. So something like that I think would be essential for the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea for that matter.
Twice. Oh, okay. Oh, Minister, Deputy Minister, yes, please come in.
Thank you. I just wanted to join from our region perspective as well, and to really to join you from for what you said, that we need to work on the legal and regulatory framework in order to create an enabling environment for interconnections, because it's quite specific, especially when you have cross-border projects. And if you have a multi-country cross-border projects, especially what we are talking, for example, now for the green energy corridor starting from Azerbaijan, Georgia, going under the Black Sea, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, things get complicated. So we need a stable and clear legal and regulatory environment to enable these projects to happen. And the other issue that we are facing, and is the big question again, where the funding comes from. Because when we are talking about these ambitions, we are talking about billions of investment, and it seems that the transition is underfunded currently. I mean, if we are looking at the pot of public money available, they just don't seem enough. Don't seem enough in terms of timing, and then they don't seem enough in terms of scale. And the only way forward is really an effective public-private partnerships. I mean, we have no other way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Giles, would you want to come in as well?
Thank you very much. The Minister is absolutely right. We have to more than double what we are spending in grid infrastructure across Europe as a whole. I think in the national grid, Julie, you've even gone further and said you need to spend in the next 5 years twice as much as you have invested in the last 10 years. So that's a factor of ×4. We can't keep going to the poor electricity consumer and putting more and more money into those grid tariffs on their bills. Yeah, we've got about as far as we can go, so we need private finance and public-private partnerships. We need innovative new revenue models. That is absolutely clear. Now, there is an elephant in the room here, which is that there are private investors who want to invest in grid, but they're saying, I need 10% return, please. And it's very, very difficult in Europe today to do a transmission or distribution network investment that generates 10% return. If you get to 7%, you're doing extremely well. Somehow we've got to bridge that gap. And that requires a very strategic approach to partnerships between government and private investors and the grid operators.
Thank you, Giles. Oh, Kirill?
Just in addition to what has been mentioned, I'm not going to say something much different, but I think regulatory stability is very important thing. The institutional support, and then with respect to financing, this is a major thing, and we need to find different financial instruments to support this process. Because, for example, from our perspective, now if we look at the hydrogen investment that we plan for the next years, this represents almost 70 to 80% of the budget that we have for all the investment, and it's billions of euros that we need to invest. And in being a regulated business, this would definitely affect the user of this business, and we need support in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question now, because I'm keen to continue this debate. So the next question is, what do you see as key examples of successful international cooperation in the North Sea, and how can we build upon them? And I'd like to invite Julie from National Grid to respond first.
Well, of course, I feel very happy responding to that, because we have 6 examples already in use of very, very effective cooperation bilaterally. I'm going to come back to that point. So we've worked with, so it's EnergyNet, Elia, RTE, TenneT and StatNet, our joint venture partners across those 6. And not only have we worked very effectively with them, and I think established a model for cross-country collaboration through joint ventures, in a way that I think they would support, saying has worked. But also we've managed to line up their system operation and their regulatory systems with our UK end as well, to make a coherent and sensible market arrangement. I think the regulatory system for the interconnectors is a success story. It is a whole life asset sort of regulation system, and it does return a lot of value to the consumers, and it does give, and you know, the comment on the previous conversation, there are no shortage of investors wanting to invest in this area. I think the question is, can we give them the right regulatory arrangements and the right public support to make sure that we unleash that? And that has got to be the answer to the last question in my mind. So we've got 6 great examples of bilateral working. We're about to embark on these offshore hybrid assets, which have multi-purpose interconnector features. This is going to require a level of coordination that is more significant, I think, than we've had to do bilaterally. And I just want to pick up on the other theme that's coming out of today is we also need a more multilateral approach. We definitely are going to need markets that work well across boundaries. And something I think Giles mentioned, we're also going to need something much more strategic about getting the supply chain in place for all of this. So I think while we have great examples in grid, and we have been really, really pleased with the way we've worked with our partners, I think this question of how we get a more multilateral approach to this is the sort of the question of the moment, really.
Thank you, Julie. And I understand Anna online also wants to come in on this question as well. So Anna, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Marcus. Yes, I would like to emphasize the importance of learning from each other, and it is crucial not to reinvent the wheel. And ASCAP works with its member states to facilitate sharing experience and sharing best practices. And over the course of the last couple of years, we worked together with Florence School of Regulations, and as Minister Petrova mentioned, the importance of regulatory framework to facilitate energy connectivity. We organized a number of capacity building events to bring European experience to Asia Pacific region. But one thing I want to emphasize is while we learn from each other, it's important to tailor experience to national context. It's important to take into consideration national circumstances, and that's the way how we can implement best practices in the most efficient way. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. I'm just looking at my panel. Is there anybody else who wants to come in on this? Or we're going to do something really exciting in a minute. We're going to open it to the wider floor. But before we do that, I was just going to make a point myself. So one of the things that we've been doing through the Green Grids Initiative is helping facilitate that knowledge share. And we've run a number of events recently with the support of National Grid and also the UK regulator Ofgem to share exactly that experience about how the North Sea interconnectors have been built with the Asia Pacific region, both through direct involvement with countries, but also through wider collaboration with the ASEAN Centre for Energy and with ESCAP themselves as well. And the thirst for knowledge and that experience is really, really powerful. And we need to look at the actual context, as Anna says, but absolutely, people are, organisations are very keen to learn, to find out, what's worked, and more importantly, what didn't work as well, because there's lots of war stories that we were able to share as well, which is great. So, but now we are actually on time, which I'm surprised about. So thank you very much for our panellists for being very succinct. But I allow now to open it up to a wider debate. Is there anybody on the floor who would like to bring in a point or a discussion around the subject that we've been talking about? Yes, please. If you can say, we need a mic. Hang on a sec. Yeah. Oh, this one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Declan Gallagher. I'm a student from Indiana University, and I had a question about green energy transition. So green energy is becoming more and more affordable while use of fossil fuels becomes less affordable. However, some countries still have economies that rely on the extraction of natural resources like oil and gas. Right now we're in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan has recently committed to more oil and gas extraction from the Caspian Sea, for example. So how can we encourage countries that have an economic reliance on fossil fuels to commit to greener forms of energy production?
So, do we have any volunteers for that? Boye?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a thing that we see across the. You can't hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
That is something we see when we work across the world. So, not necessarily just for oil and gas, but for coal as well. And it is very difficult to sometimes get across your point that the renewables are on a like-for-like basis, in a number of cases, cheaper than fossil fuels as it stands. This may be distorted through subsidies or, for example, discounted transport costs or transfer pricing inside the country. But it takes a long time to get from that point of you want to put renewables in to convince people that it is actually a good thing overall for the country to invest in. And this is one thing that we're developing a better story on. The issue remains, though, that even if it is cheaper overall to use renewables rather than fossil fuels, all of the investments of the renewables are upfront. So even if your levelized cost of energy is lower, you often don't have the capital. So that is a challenge. So I think the finance aspect that this COP is all about is very much about that. It's essentially you're moving investment from spending on oil and gas in the future to spending on renewables upfront. And that is a key challenge, and I think that covers interconnectors as well.
Thank you. Are there anybody else from the audience? Oh, yes, Mr. Dyke.
Hello, Craig Dyke, so Director of System Operation at the National Energy System Operator. I guess it's two bits for me, because I guess we talked about getting the assets built in the first place. When they're all up and running, there are two bits we probably haven't talked about. One is security supply, and I think the experience of winter 22-23, and certainly all of the countries in the North Seas really came together and supported each other through what was a really critical time with impact of what was going on, unfortunately, in Ukraine. And the other bit to recognise as well is, taking the UK as a really good example, and the report that you mentioned, currently the UK is a net import of electricity, and therefore we benefit from hydro in Norway and French nuclear fleet, for example. By the end of this decade, if we can hit a clean power environment, then actually we will become a net exporter. And ultimately that free energy from natural resources gets shared with others. So there are two things for me. And the Bulgarian equivalent of me said, yes, a really good thing. He said, but he's got two things while he does his job. The first bit, he wants his children to live in a green environment. And the second bit, he wants to ensure that his children actually have an environment where they have a stable system. So when they flick that light switch, it actually comes on. So there are two elements. So I guess it's just comments from the floor on that statement, Marcus.
Thank you very much. Did I see a gentleman over there? Great.
Hello, my name is Peter Markussen from the Danish system operator Energinet. So we have the system operators on board here today. And we say my question is then also on speed, because now on the Viking link that we built with National Grid and very good investment. It took more than 10 years. And I remember when we started looking at the business case, we expected very much export in one direction. But now we see export in both directions, and the business case is actually different now, 10 years after. So my question is on how can we also prepare our business cases for maybe a future we don't know, all the uncertainty that is in it.
Thank you. Oh, Julie.
I'm happy to respond to that,
yes.
But I think also Craig might want to respond to it, actually. I think there has been a realisation lately that we need to speed up the cycle time, and we're not going to do this with our present planning arrangements, our present regulatory arrangements. I'm hoping that these next projects will be much better than we experienced. Because with Viking, of course, what was fascinating is it took sort of 8.5 years to get to the point of digging in the ground. And then, of course, once we were on it, right? And it delivered actually to time and to cost, and it was absolutely a model project, really. So if we can just find a way to cut out some of that early stage, I think, there is reason for optimism that we will get these assets into place a lot more quickly. But I don't. Craig, do you want to?
Thank you, Julie. And just anecdotally, I was working on the forerunner to the North Sea Link over 20 years ago, and the environment there didn't work for that project. And fortunately, it came back when maybe there were better people at the helm. I don't know. Right. I think I saw a hand over here. Yes. Can you? Yes, please.
Hi everyone, thanks for this fascinating panel. My name's Chris Aylett, I'm from the Chatham House in the UK. I'm opening a little bit of a can of worms here, conscious we've only got 5 minutes, but I'm interested in a little bit of the politics of this. You mentioned NSEC and how the UK perhaps would quite like to join it, but at the moment only has this kind of association agreement. It'd be interesting to know, particularly since there's this potential for regional interconnections in other areas, what the panel's general thoughts are, and the economic benefits are so clear, the decarbonising benefits are so clear. Do we think what role do we think politics plays in sort of rolling out interconnection?
Thank you. I'm sure the whole panel will have a go on this. Should we start from left to right then, Giles? You want to go first?
Crucially, the UK and the European Union have got to agree a working arrangement for the trading of electricity. It seems extraordinary that we still have to say that 8 years after the Brexit referendum, but there is no arrangement today. This is pending business from Brexit, and it's a matter of top priority that it's resolved, and the best solution is linking the UK somehow to single day ahead coupling. Now, let's take a broader European perspective on this, and this answers your question as well, Craig. It's one thing to build the grids. How do you then ensure that the electrons are always flowing in the right direction? We have a bit of a bottleneck in Europe on the Austrian-Hungarian interconnector. And we used to think it was a capacity issue. But now we've discovered actually the capacity, which is not quite enough on that interconnector, is not being properly utilized. It is empty a lot of the time. Why? Because the algorithm that controls the cross-border cost-benefit allocation and decides where the electrons go, for some strange reason, it's the way it was designed, says it's of more social value to Europe as a whole that these electrons flow westwards to Germany than that they go eastwards, which is one reason why there is such a difference between wholesale power prices east of that interconnector and west of that interconnector. And this is unfair, and it's very good, Minister, that at the last meeting of EU energy ministers you secured agreement, partly because of the push that you and Romania and Greece were giving to review that algorithm, so we have a properly functioning algorithm and can fully utilize the capacity on that crucial interconnector.
Thank you. Oh, Julie?
Yeah, I mean, we care about this a lot, obviously. We not just for our own sort of commercial interests, but honestly because we need a system that's cleared if the electricity is going to flow to the most efficient place. It's in all of our consumers' benefit to do that. I think what's interesting is that in the UK we've thought about this as just about Brexit, but I think the way the conversation's going, we're going to need a market that is beyond just the European Union as well. So if we want it to really be efficient and effective and cleared, it's not just a question of restoring what the UK lost through Brexit. It's a question of taking that out further now to other markets and making sure that we're getting the best for everybody.
Thank you. Right, I'm gonna draw us to a close now. I've got a couple of parish notices to give. As well, but first I just want to try and draw these threads together very, very succinctly. It feels like there's been some fantastic progress been made in the North Sea, and that learning is being shared, but there's lots of challenges still to go. The political dimension we've heard is very important. The benefits are huge. So there should be a compelling reason to go after these benefits, getting the right regulatory environments in place, getting the communication, the relationships between the organisations, all the players in the region, not just the electricity assets, I think is really important as well. I won't bore you about my experience of trying to negotiate crossing agreements with oil developers as well. That was fascinating. But it is a shared asset. These regions are a shared asset, and so having correct, integrated planning in those regions with the right environment to support the development is going to be crucial. So I really appreciate the panel we've had today. I'm pressing the button, somebody, a slide should come up. I understand there is a QR code for feedback. My colleagues at in the UK Pavilion have impressed upon me. They're very, very keen to get the feedback from today's event so we can understand what works, what didn't work, and share that knowledge, which we're very keen to do. I'd also like to plug a couple of events that are coming up tomorrow. So National Grid will be participating in an event at the We Mean Business Coalition Pavilion at 3:30 on the development of offshore systems called Powering the Future, Insights from Regional Cooperation Across the North Sea. So again, we can continue this conversation here and get deeper into that learning. So that sounds like a fantastic thing. And also at the Bulgarian Pavilion at 2:30, I get that right. 2 o'clock, apologies. There is a session on transition in Central Europe called the Energy Panel Transition to a Low Emission Energy. And again, we can learn from our Bulgarian colleagues about the experiences that they're having as well. So if your diary permits, I urge you to go along to those events and join in those discussions. So that just leaves me to thank our panelists and speakers and deputy ministers and those of you that have joined online as well, and the audience for your wonderful and interesting questions and reflections. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the event. Thank you.